Hello everyone, this is Charles
And Jim
from Mellow Amps, and in this episode we're going to take care of probably the most difficult remaining part that's left. And this entire episode is going to be devoted to it, and that's these RCA jacks. We're going to do one of them here in a lot of detail and hopefully get you on your way. So you'll notice that they're actually color-coded. Red for right, white for left, and on the board itself we have R for right, L for left. So make sure, first of all, that whenever you're installing these, you put them in the correct spots. So we're going to take our jack and we're going to pull the collar off.
Because we want as little thermal mass as possible
this
to have
is
the solder.
a big chunk of metal.
It's still a big chunk of metal.
Okay, so real quick before we continue with the rest of the video, we've had to shoot another little segment here. Later in the video, you're going to see us using this little spacer tool. And what we found is the RCA jacks actually have different tolerances depending on the batch. So in order to get around this, what we've done is designed a new spacer tool that's designed to hold it straight no matter what the tolerance is. Because some of these are going to be loose whenever you mount them and some of them are going to be tight. So the way this works, I'll show you not mounted on the board first, is that the jack is going to go in like so. Let me get that in focus. You can see there's a rounded portion here. Now, you can't mount it like this ahead of time and then put it on the board. What you have to do is seat it on the board and then mount this from the side. So you go like this. Put it on here and you can see this is loose. This is the reason why we had to design the new tool. And now I'm going to bring this in from the side. And you see how we've got that lined up with the slot, and then I'm going to lift the jack up, and there we go. So that's fully seated on there now. The jack is nice and straight, and we can get in there to solder the contacts. So you should have this new tool in with your kit. Go ahead and do the rest of the video as it is set up. This should do the job for you just fine. Okay. Now you should have a spacer tool. These are going to be provided with every one of the kits, and this is so that we get our height off of the board correct with these guys. So we're going to go, we've got a red one, so we're going to go in the red right here, and I'm going to just press it in just a little bit, and then I'm going to get that spacer underneath from the edge. Once that's in, I'm going to go ahead and press down until we're seated flat. So let's take a closer look at that. Let's get that on camera. So you can see I'm pressed down flat. You can take a look at it from the front and the side and make sure that you're straight.
Yeah, so you want to be 90 degrees off the board. That's really important. Let's pause for a second and repeat that. It's really important that you solder the jacks in at 90 degrees to the board. So they're going to be straight up, vertical.
Straight up. Okay, so we look good here. I'm going to flip it over and show you how the back looks. So we have those little wings that are going almost flush to the board.
And the wings are the ground connection or shield connection.
And they're also a mechanical connection too.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, just like with the switches, we want something that's going to lift it up slightly here. And there we go, that's good.
Yeah.
And you want to come in with a hot iron. Now, I like to run mine extremely hot. Dad and I have different soldering styles here. And I'm pushing mine at around 425 Celsius, which is about 800 Fahrenheit. There's a lot of thermal mass, so you want to come in fairly hot.
Yeah, now we're only coming in that hot for the wings.
Yeah. So I'm going to start at one wing here. I'm going to go on this guy right here. And yeah, let's get a little bit of flux on there. Thanks for remembering. And I'm going to clean my tip and tin it. And now because of the thermal mass here, this can take a good chunk of time to warm up. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to add a bit of solder so we get a good thermal connection. Wait for a second, and then I'm going to fill it in. And see, it's really not that bad. And there. We've got a nice rounded over solder blob. And now we should have a good physical connection. So I'm going to pull that spacer out. You don't want to leave it in there for all the soldering because you will melt it.
Now
and let's take a closer look.
Yeah, we should take a look to see what it looks like if we're vertical.
So we're looking pretty good on that side. We're looking good on that side. And we don't have any flow through here yet, but we're going to come back to that in a second. So now that I've done that wing, let's get this up here. I'm going to come in and get the other side.
Now, we should mention to people, we're starting to get a fair amount of components on the board that basically have plastic or shrink sheathings on them.
They do not play well with hot soldering irons.
No, they'll melt instantly, particularly the shrink that finishes off electrolytics. So be really careful you don't get the barrel of your soldering iron touching anything.
Yeah. Now I'm coming in on a little bit of a weird angle from where I normally would, but it's going to be easier to see on screen. I'm going to tin my tip, and I'm going to come in on that wing and do the exact same thing. All right, looks like we're heating up, and let's fill it.
Now Charles is putting a little bit of pressure down,
but not a whole lot, and there we go. Let's take another look at that from the top. Okay, we got a little bit of flow through on it now. Let me get that on screen. Good. And you got to be careful. This whole body is connected to those wings. So if you're applying heat to it, that's hot. That's very hot right now. Don't touch it. Don't put it on anything flammable.
Okay.
So last thing we're going to do is come in on that center. So the center is going to align with one side or the other.
Yeah, and we're going to turn down our iron.
Yep, that's a good idea. So I'm going to bring it down from 425 to about, I'm going to say 385, which is
about 720 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And at that temperature, Charles solders hotter than I do, but watch how fast he cuts in and he gets out. Boom.
There we go.
That's it. You definitely don't show the center of the.
There we go.
Yeah. So let's bring it down, and so you definitely don't want to flow solder in here because that's where the center conductor of your RCA cable goes through. Well, it doesn't come all the way through here, but if you flow solder down the barrel, you're actually gonna jam it up and you'll be euchred.
You also want to avoid dripping flux down there too, because it'll just make it really gummy and it's going to interfere with a good electrical connection. So now that we've done that side, we've got a good connection. Let's make sure that mechanically we're going to be solid everywhere. So I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to come back in on each one of these wings and I'm just going to fill it so that we have a nice mechanical connection here. And while you're doing these, it's okay if you start with one, do a portion of it, and move on to the next one to give it a chance to cool down. So I'm going to come back in, apply a little bit of pressure, flow a bit of solder, and there we go. So let's take a look at that.
Nice.
So that is going to be a good solid join. I'm going to do the same to the other side and get the rest of these on here, and then we'll see you back here in a minute. Take your time with this. It's going to take a little bit of time to do it right, but once it's done, these are not going to come off.
Yeah, and remember what Charles mentioned. This is hot. It's still hot. So be very careful that you don't grab these accidentally. And it's going to be really easy to put another red one on the left out, which is supposed to be white. In fact, let's grab a white one and we'll just show you to make sure that you've got it right on. And there we go. So white by convention has been left forever and a day. And there you go. And over here it's the same. So it's going to be
right, left, right, left.
Yeah. It's perfectly logical. Okay, well, carry on.
Okay, well, how did that go, everyone? You can see here we've got all 6 of our jacks on here in the right spots. We have, let me see if I can get that on camera. We have a nice bit of solder flowed around each of the wings.
Yeah, that's a lot less critical than any other part of the soldering. As long as you have a bit of solder on the top side of the board, this is
over here.
This is where it really matters.
Yeah, it's a little bit of extra around there, just helps with the mechanical connection.
And a pro tip, when you're doing these center conductors here, hang on, where's the proper poker? These center conductors here, you do not want to bring a lot of heat to them, and you want to get in and out fast, because the metal contact that runs through the jack as a sleeve, if we flip it over,
it's sitting inside that plastic sleeve on the inside.
So you don't want to overheat that. The outer part, you can bring heat to those wings, but that center conductor, you want to get in and get out fast, and you don't want to fill the middle in. So,
Okay, well, this is really starting to look like something. We just have a few components left to add onto the board, and we'll take care of those in the next episode.
Okay.